Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 184 of Let's Go Racing. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's show, going to be joined by our old friend. He is a media personality, race car driver. He does it all. Spencer Hill is going to join us in just a little while from right now. We'll catch up with Spencer, see what he's been up to, and his thoughts on everything going on in the NASCAR Cup Series and beyond coming up in just a little bit from right now. In for Dominic for the second straight week. You know him, you love him. Jonathan Fjeld of the RacingExperts.com is here with us again for the second week in a row. He is back for more. Jonathan, first off, welcome back, and I'm glad I didn't scare you off after a week, just an hour of the two of us last week. A great time, and looking forward to doing it again here, man.
Well, you scared me a little bit, but I talked to Dom and he said, "Oh, that's just par for the course." And I decided to come back because you're pretty cool. So here I am.
Okay. That's good to hear. Jonathan, let's start off with the Nashville race. Ryan Blaney gets it done, and it has been really leading up to this a nightmarish season for Ryan Blaney with a number of DNFs, just all sorts of bad luck, and not even necessarily his own fault or even his team's own fault. Like they've just been so unlucky, and now they get this win. We saw, his teammate Joey Logano get a win a couple weeks ago too. This has got to feel like a huge sigh of relief for that 12 team to get that win. They ran so well. It wasn't anything fluky about it. They dominated there in that final stage. Big deal for Ryan Blaney to get this victory here.
Big deal. And not only Joey Logano, but also his other teammate, Austin Cindric, the affiliate car, Josh Berry. I mean, everybody in the Penske orbit had won this season in NASCAR. And Blaney was there after so many good runs, like Homestead, where he had a lightning fast car, blew an engine, other races, like Darlington, where he took the lead, looked like he was going to win the race. And then caution comes out, his pit crew admittedly lets him down. It was great to see him pull through. I think I told someone to think about halfway or so. I was like, man, this kind of feels like a Ryan Blaney type victory, where he's not really around the first part. The second part, though, he's just consistently out front, consistently executing, doing well. His team lived up to the standard, and they got the win.
I think about this, Feld.
Mm.
We have seen over the years that there are, I think, what we call second half type teams. Tony Stewart was notorious for this for a long time. Brad Keselowski did this. And I think of this era, Ryan Blaney and that 12 team have kind of been that. I would think now that they got this monkey off their back, that they got this win and had a good run, that there's probably, a light at the end of the tunnel, that there's probably more wins coming for Ryan Blaney here in the near future.
This weekend in Michigan, I would say, man, Ford has a lot of pace, with their engines the way they are. They always produce a lot of horsepower, do well at these high horsepower tracks. I think the road courses are going to be a little bit of a challenge, for Blaney. Blaney's never been the best driver on the road courses, but you got Pocono coming up, which has been a great track for Blaney. You got Atlanta. I think he could rack up quite a few playoff points, really climb up the standings and get to a higher seed to be able to make it further in the playoffs.
Before we bring Spencer in, Jonathan, your final thoughts on what we saw at Nashville? Anything else stand out to you? Good run there for Carson Hocevar up front as well.
Yeah, great run for Carson Osavar. I think it was nice to see him get the finish he deserved in the Coca-Cola 600 after that heartbreaking engine failure. He had some trouble with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He's still learning. He's still making people mad, and that might come back to bite him. And I know a lot of people have been talking about that, but man, honestly, he's exciting. He embodies a lot of what I think a lot of people love about NASCAR, which is a guy who, fans are like, oh man, this guy is running into my guy or running into this guy. He's a punk and all this. And he's out there making great ways in the races, finishing top 5, top 10, challenging for wins. I mean, that's what we love in a NASCAR driver. That's what Dale had back in the day, and that's what we love to see in our drivers. So it's cool to see what Carson Hocevar is doing. Other thoughts on Nashville Prime broadcast was great. I thought the multi-group racing was cool too, and great job to Eric Jones as well, getting seventh after run top 10 for a lot of the race.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. And Carson Hocevar, it kind of reminds me of Ross Chastain when he entered the Cup level. That he didn't make a whole lot of friends initially in the beginning, and then things kind of settled down a little bit. He still got some enemies, but Carson Hocevar kind of having that introduction, it seems, to the NASCAR Cup Series at this point in time. But good to see him run up front, and the drivers may not like it, but I think it's good for the sport to maybe kind of have a young bad boy of sorts in Carson Hocevar. Ride the Dente, I guess,
Ride the
uh,
Dente.
for Carson Hocevar. Jonathan, our next guest, you know him very well. In fact, for folks at home that may not know, Jonathan actually invited him on the show this week. Tell us about Spencer Hill. Give us the introduction and everything we need to know about Spencer.
Ooh, I really do get to do the Dominic. I get to introduce all the guests. Cool. All right. Well, Spencer Hill, he is a racer here in New Mexico, races sprint cars, a really awesome guy. Just recently landed a really cool branding deal that you're going to hear about a little bit later. Does some stuff or did some stuff with the New Mexico Motorsports Report. Big fan, big guy into racing like us. Diecast collector, as you will see. Spencer, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me. Great to see you both too. I know it's been a little while, but uh, there's no short list of things to talk about tonight.
Now, we could start. The three of us could just all shit on the guy that's not here in Dominic, and and really just bury him
Well,
underneath.
that's like low-hanging fruit, isn't it? Come on now,
There's
Tyler.
so much material to work with.
I know he went up north, didn't he? He went across state lines and across to all the way up to Canada, didn't he?
Yeah, went to the 51st state. He we might just let him stay up there and not come back. Jonathan's done such a good job, that uh that might work out. But Spencer, tell us what you've been up to, man. What's been going on in your world?
Well, it's been really busy, Tyler. Appreciate you guys having me on again. It's been kind of a whirlwind since the last time I saw you all on the show. I've been racing sprint cars. Unfortunately, on November 15th of last year, I was at Vado Speedway Park and got into a really bad accident up at the top side of 3 and 4. Got hit by another car, backed it up into the fence, and ended up actually breaking my back. I broke my C7, my T2, T3, and my T4. Super scary, by far the scariest racing related accident of my life. I'd never even broken a bone before that. So to break like a back was a really, really big eye-opening deal. But even worse than that, after I hit, obviously it knocked the wind out of me. I was trying to just collect myself. And sure enough, I hit so hard that it ruptured the fuel cell and I caught on fire. So after that, my all my mind and everything that was going on went from hurting to just getting the hell out of the car and went over to the hospital and spent a few days with the fine folks over at the El Paso medical center down there. We avoided surgery, which was the good news there. Went through a lot of physical therapy though in the last few months. I had to wear a back brace and a neck brace for 12 weeks. That was by far the most uncomfortable and hardest thing I've had to do. But even more so than the physical side of that injury, I think that mentally it was very frustrating for me because I'm really on the go quite a bit. I know that we usually talk about the racing side of things on here, especially with my life, but I also am a pretty big entrepreneur in the business world too. So to not really be able to do anything that I was used to at 100% and having to scale that back was really difficult mentally for me. But I'm happy to announce that I'm cleared from physical therapy and ready to get some race cars built and get back on track. But in the meantime, I've had a great time. I've been crew chiefing for a car out of Phoenix, Arizona, with Lonnie Hostetler. He's a up and coming driver in the sprint car world. He's had some experience in TA2 and legend cars, so that's been fun. And also, I've gotten to do what you guys kind of do on the weekends too. And I've been announcing for the series that I was racing with last year with the 360 Wing Desert Series. And let me tell you, that is by far way more nerve-wracking than getting behind the wheel of a sprint car, if you can imagine that, because you have to just have the entire race in your hands up there in the booth. But it's been a lot of fun seeing the other side of the glass. I'm looking forward to getting back behind the wheel really soon.
Man, I gotta ask you, like after you had your injury, I remember you remember James Hinchcliffe's crash at Indy, you know, how
Mhm.
not long after the fact, he asked the question of when can I get back in a race car? How long after your crash did you ask or think about when can I get back in a race car?
First time I saw the doctor. Funny you asked that. I'm laying there in the hospital bed. Sydney, my girlfriend's laying there with me, and I'm sure she didn't want to hear this, but the first question I ask is, "Can I make it to the Tulsa shootout?" And the
Oh,
doctor
my
just kind of
hometown.
looks
Yeah.
at me and goes, "I don't think it's a good idea." And I said, "All right, I'll play your game at least for now." So did not make it to the Tulsa shootout. Still have yet to get back behind the wheel, but we got the major part out of the way, which is me getting healthier, and now much brighter days ahead on that side of things.
That's good. That's good to hear. The Tulsa Shootout, I'm sure you'll have play opportunities down the line. You're there in my hometown. Fantastic event, leads into the Chili Bowl and all that. So, very cool there. But Spencer, I got to know from your point of view with this injury, and Jonathan kind of touched on it a bit in a sense. Has it changed your perspective when now that you've been through it of seeing other drivers, maybe at the cup level or in NASCAR, whatever it may be, when they go through injuries? What does that mean now for you when you see that now that you've lived it of sorts here?
Well, Tyler, that's a great question. I think that it has been able to kind of shed a light on that side of the world because it's something that I don't think many people really can connect to unless you've gone through something that difficult. And for me, I really was trying to navigate this in completely uncharted territory. I'd never had to experience such a setback as much as that was. And for me, I'm a little bit lucky when it comes to that because racing isn't how I primarily make my income. When we're looking at these NASCAR drivers, they're put up against a wall. And I think that's why it's taken such a long time to see that shift. We're finally starting to see it nowadays with this new generation of drivers. But, just even 10 years ago, trying to take a driver out of the seat was hardly even a question because they wouldn't do it. You had to literally be missing a limb or knocked out to not race, whether it be that next day, the next week, or for consecutive weeks after that. And I think that me being through this injury, I was able to take that step back, but it's got to be so much harder, especially if you're trying to make a name for yourself. We all touched on the financial side of racing as well. That's a major player in it too. But having that decision in front of you of, when is the right time to say, you know what, I'm not healthy enough to race, whether that's with a concussion, whether that's with an actual injury like breaking your back, or, in Chase Elliott's when he broke his leg just a couple years ago. Every little decision like that has to go through more than just one person. But I do feel like this new generation of drivers has at least let it become an option to let themselves sub out for a few weeks and get up to 100% so that they can do their job properly. And I appreciate what NASCAR has done and all the other sanctioning bodies too that have followed suit to allow these drivers to put their health first and still continue to race for a championship in most cases.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And on top of that, too, of taking a step back, Spencer, and whether it's being a crew chief, or maybe you're getting to watch more races now on TV that you weren't getting to see otherwise. What's that been like of just enjoying it and seeing the product for yourself without being in it, whether you're at the track crew chiefing or watching on TV? I feel like every time I turn on any NASCAR podcast or platform of sorts, everybody's complaining about the short track racing, and I don't blame them, to be honest. Like, what's been your perspective on kind of just what you've seen and everything?
It's been difficult to be able to sit there and watch all of these races because I'm so used to, at least on Saturdays, being at the racetrack and being so involved. That's why I've surrounded myself in different forms of doing that at the racetrack. When it comes to the NASCAR side of things, though, and being both on the journalistic side of things and also just a pure race fan, I think that it's been really nice to have that opportunity to kind of slow down and study what all of the networks are doing this year. I know that you guys just talked about the Prime coverage. That's been one of the things that I've absolutely loved. I think that they're doing everything right for the sport. Granted, they have the platform to do it the right way with being streaming and not being so constraint on time and having to deal with everything else kind of butting up head to head on them. But they've done an incredible job. I feel like the last few weeks when I'm watching that broadcast, it reminds me of those old Speed Channel days and the old ESPN booth days, and it's been really neat to see that. Of course, I think that everybody has kind of had a gripe with Fox because their coverage has kind of been up and down in a lot of ways. I think that I see a lot of the same things that you guys see on X and all the other social media platforms saying like, we really want as fans for our broadcast partners to present the sport in a serious tone and kind of shift it in a certain direction. And to see how all the broadcast partners are taking that, even on a more small scale and regional level, whether it be World of Outlaws, High Limit, I think that that world is slowly starting to change with its climate quite a bit too. And I think they are starting to listen to fans a lot more, which can be good and bad. I feel like everybody has their own style, and what fits for one won't fit for all. But I think that's what makes it really beautiful and why it's important to have multiple sides of coverage throughout the entire year.
Well, Jonathan, that's been a big topic of the last couple of weeks of how much Prime has done a good job of, and I think that there's a confusion out there among the Fox people, and I'll be careful because I do have friends at Fox. I'm not trying to make any enemies here, but just being honest, I think there is some sort of confusion out there that Fox is always, and this has been in everything they've done, not just NASCAR, NFL, college sports, all that, of trying to be the fun network,
Mhm.
um, but also take the sport seriously too. And I think what I've seen, John, is from Amazon, they're still having a great time. Dale Jr. and Steve going back and forth. Adam's sneaky funny. I've told him that before. Carl, Corey, those guys, like it is a smart broadcast, but it's still entertaining too.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you have them getting drivers on the stage, and after 3 hours on a hot race car, saying, "Hey, have a beer. Let's talk. Let's talk about the race." Like it's fun. It's real. I mean, we saw what Bubba Wallace, was saying after the race. He was loose and having a good time. I think he cussed a couple times, which if you just gotta have a hot car for 3 hours, I would too. Everything they're doing with it and the chemistry that they have. Like if the on-track product is good and fun and presented well, you don't need to force anything. You just gotta show the good parts, have fun, enjoy yourself. Like there are some good things with Fox. Like I love what they do going down to the infield and spotlighting different campers, different things like that. I think there are some fun things that Fox brings to the table. But when it comes, I think just with sort of the delivery of certain things, and I mean, fans out there who are listening, they have an idea in their head of what they can think of. I kind of have an idea as well. When it comes to the delivery of things or even the way things are shown, I think Fox could really take some notes from Prime. Instead of showing the leader hot lapping the field for 3, 4, or 5 laps. Let's show some battles further back in the pack. Let's mix it up. Let's really show the best parts of this. Let's have some interesting discussions like about the fuel economy that we saw, the burn bar that's like an actual tangible piece of data that teams use because that's fun. When NASCAR is being taken seriously, it's really fun, it's really engaging, and really something that can get new fans in.
Yeah. Spencer, chime in. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really agree with what Jonathan said there. I feel like there is a fine line between, having fun on a broadcast, but also the necessity to take it seriously and present it in a tone of like, this is a real sport. there are, in many cases, lives on the line. Like it's dangerous. That's part of the allure. And I feel like we had kind of crept away from that side of it in recent years. So to see it kind of come back to what I would call the peak of NASCAR, which in my opinion was anywhere from the 2001 to 2006, 7-ish range. Getting back to that era is a really exciting thing. And to that point too, I'm very excited to see what TNT is able to do and what NBC is able to do after seeing the response that everybody has seen thus far just after 2 races on Prime. And I know that as much gripe as Fox is getting, I don't think it's necessarily all on them. I think that fans, they see a few certain things that really bother them. The biggest one being remote broadcasts. I know that fans and me, I don't like it either. I feel like there's a disconnect there. I understand that the idea of when you're broadcasting in that format, you're wanting to talk about what's on the screen, but I feel like you can naturally tell there's a delay there. That's not on the broadcasters like entire shoulders though to carry that burden. That's some things are out of their control, and I feel like sometimes Fox doesn't get enough credit for all that they've done. I mean, they've been in the sport 20 plus years and have been in many forms the leader. I think that everybody just has their own opinion, and I think high tide rises all ships, and that's exactly what's going to happen here in the next few years.
You being in a unique position as a media guy and a race car driver. I feel like I know the answer to this question, but I'll obviously let you answer it for yourself. Would you rather, at the highest level, Spencer, be calling a race or in a race car?
Is this a one-time deal, or is
Let's say
this
it's a,
like
let's say it's a one-time deal. Yeah.
driving? Got to
Yeah.
be driving.
Yep. That's what I
Um,
figured.
Now, if this was slightly different, there's a lot of different ways you could probably twist that question. If it was like a one-time race versus a career in broadcasting, I'd probably go the other way. But since I was little, ever since I could remember breathing, all I've ever wanted to do was race in NASCAR at the highest level. So until the day I reach that, it's always going to be the answer for me.
I like that since the day I remember breathing.
Yeah. That's cool. Spencer, tell me about the crew chiefing side of things. How has that been, and what do you feel learned doing it? Do you think when you get back in the race car, it's going to make you a better driver out of doing this?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I feel like a lot of people probably don't know this about me, and I'll kind of pull the curtain back for you guys here. I didn't come from a mechanically inclined family. I never even really knew how to turn wrenches on my own cars up until maybe 5, 6 years ago. So that side of it did not come naturally to me at all, nor have I ever really enjoyed the like sitting in the garage, the grinding it out through the week side of things. I had to figure out how to do that to advance my career because I couldn't rely on people, especially volunteers, to continue to hold up that side of the bargain. So I had to force myself to learn how to do the crew chiefing side of things, and I've worked very hard on that side. I still don't say that I enjoy it nearly as much as driving the car or even broadcasting, but I've come to appreciate it a lot. There's a certain appreciation that you can have when you come to the track and you've put a setup on a car and you've made the difference and you made a driver mesh with that machine and you have a really good night. And in the most hopeful case, you end up in victory lane. So that side of it's been very different. I've been my own crew chief for a long time now, so I kind of understood the grind that it takes to do things what I would call properly. And I've enjoyed bringing my own ideas, and it's a unique perspective for me too. I don't think that a lot of people, at least when it comes to regional sprint car racing, if you're a crew chief, not many of those crew chief roles have also been drivers, at least in recent years. With me being so freshly removed from the race car that I'm also working on and trying to help another driver out, not only am I just a crew chief when it comes to the setup side of things, I also am a driver coach and I'm able to better understand why they're feeling whatever feedback they're giving me. And I try to just go a little bit further and try to see, okay, is this something that is being caused by mechanically what the car is doing in the racetrack? Or is this because of maybe a line that isn't being utilized to its full potential. So that side of it's very interesting, and I'm trying to play both sides of it to the best of my ability. But it's been a fun challenge, and I'm really happy that I'm getting the opportunity to help someone out like Lonnie over there in Phoenix, and he's had a blast too. So I hope that I'm able to get back behind the wheel myself as well soon. But I'm really enjoying that side of it. It's not something that I ever thought I would, but it's been a good time as well.
That's great. Spencer's going to stick around. We'll get to our news and notes in a moment. Then we'll wrap up with our mailbag segment to follow after that. Jonathan, go ahead and lead the way. Where are we starting on the news and notes front?
Well, we are going to start. I want to mention somewhat about the playoff bubble. There are 17 drivers who are within a race for the points. The cut line after Nashville, it is very close. Of course, we saw Ryan Blaney, like you mentioned, get the win, so that knocks off another position in the playoffs. That will be filled up by points. There's 9 winners so far, 7 points at least that we know of. Just go ahead and read you the cut line here. It is crazy. Bubba Wallace plus 54, Chase Briscoe plus 53, Alex Bowman plus 45, Chris Buescher plus 8, Kyle Busch plus 2. I want to know, guys, before I read the drivers below the cut line, which driver there kind of stands out to you as, okay, they're above the cut line, but I'm a little bit worried about them?
Spencer, go ahead.
I mean, as you read those, the first one that pops in my mind is Kyle Busch there, +2 right now. Not a good position for him to be in, especially given the circumstances the last, man, 10 weeks. I just feel like this season has been abysmal for the driver, the number 8. I feel like every time you look at the TV screen, unfortunately, he's turned around sideways, sliding through the grass, and just can't seem to get a good string of races going the right way for that car. That's the first one that pops into my mind. What about you, Tyler?
Kyle Busch is a great answer. And what I would add to this, I think it's fair to ask this question. I don't think it's an overreaction at all. Have we seen the best of Kyle Busch? Is it already behind us? Are his days of competing for wins over? I mean, he just extended with RCR, and realistically, he didn't really have anywhere else to go. That team's not improving by any stretch of the imagination. Kyle Busch isn't in a situation, but I don't think I can honestly say that he's as good of a driver as he was a couple of years ago. And I like Kyle too. I want him to get back in victory lane. He came so close at Coda, but Jonathan, I think that's not a reach of reality to potentially be talking about right now.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, honestly, because we're talking about a NASCAR Hall of Famer who's a champion in 2 different divisions, over 200 wins. It's kind of like watching guys like Jimmy Johnson or Jeff Gordon, or, back in the day with Darrell Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty and all these different guys who they just reached a point in their career where they just kind of slowed down and weren't the same as they were before. I still think Kyle Busch can go back to victory lane. In fact, I think he could go back to victory lane this season, especially looking at how he did at Coda. I think we got quite a few road courses coming up. We got Michigan this upcoming weekend where he was good last year. I think Kyle is going to snap that winless streak. But as far as the days of, just seeing Kyle Busch going out and winning every week and running as well as he did, I think it might be over, save for maybe a year in the future, but it doesn't really feel like you said, RCR is not really trending in that direction.
It reminds me of when Jimmy Johnson fell off the cliff, and we were saying to ourselves, like, oh, it's just a slump. Hendrick's got some problems. He'll figure it out. And then it just never happened. And all of a sudden, Jimmy Johnson's running Indy cars. Just like that. The rest of the playoff picture, go ahead and go over that too, Jonathan.
Yeah, the rest of that. So Kyle Busch, of course, he finished 12th at Nashville, +2 to the cut line now. Ryan Preece crashed at Nashville, -2. Carson Osavar, -4. His old pal, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., -6. AJ Allmendinger, -7. Michael McDowell, -13. John Hunter Nemechek, -24. Todd Gilliland, -30. Eric Jones, -32 after a great run. Zane Smith, -36. Austin Dillon minus 39, Ty Gibbs minus 55, not having a very good season to this point, and Daniel Suarez minus 60. Guys, we are talking about, like I mentioned, 17 drivers within a race worth of points above the cut line or below. It's actually the most in the stage era of the NASCAR Cup Series at this point in the season. Looking at some of those guys below the cut line, who do you have your eye on?
The first one that has got to pop into my mind too is our second place finisher from this past weekend, Carson Hocevar. He's just been deadly on the racetrack. I mean, in every phrase of the word too. I think that whether they want to admit it or not, he's in the mind of every single driver when you walk through the garage right now. And I don't think many people would admit that, but the stats don't lie. I mean, he is consecutively, week after week, doing an incredible job when it comes to qualifying. We've now understood with this new car how important those Saturdays are, and he's crossing every box off when it comes to that. And he's also capitalizing now in the race, which is something that he wasn't doing last year. And this new personality that he has, he's walking through the pit road with swagger. And that's a very, very scary thing for the rest of the field. The only thing that I do want to note, though, is the driver that is only now 2 points behind him, because I do believe before the end of the year, unless Ricky Stenhouse Jr. somehow goes to victory lane, watch for that 77 to have one bad race at the very least.
Yeah, the names I'd keep an eye on, guys. I got three of them in particular that come to mind. I think you got to start with the two road course aces in AJ Allmendinger and Shane Van Gisbergen. I think everyone around that playoff bubble is terrified of the fact that, hey, these guys might not run well every week, but they can win on any of these road courses. And we got some more coming up here pretty soon. And those are golden opportunities for those guys to wipe away one of those playoff spots. The other name I'd also mention, I know that Dominic and I have made fun of him quite a bit on this show, based on the season he's had this year and going back to last year. But he's still in some of the best equipment. And I think that he's got enough talent, even if he hasn't shown it, he can still win on any given week. Ty Gibbs. I think Ty Gibbs, eventually, he might stumble into victory lane or something, but that equipment's too good for him to not at least be competing and potentially have one race where he's got a shot to get in that playoff. I think it's those three names to watch, Jonathan.
I like the Ty Gibbs name too, especially because we have the road courses coming up where, I mean, Ty has been very good before. You know, Bell won at Coda. You know, that Gibbs equipment is going to be good. And if he can, I mean, 55 points in Gibbs equipment, if he can start reeling off good finishes and performing more like, you know, Denny is and like how Bell is, I mean, those 55 points are going to vanish like that, pretty much. So I like that name a lot too. And I want to also see another Toyota as well. I want to see how Eric Jones is going to do, because Legacy has kind of been quietly improving their program. Obviously, I know we have some different tracks coming up that aren't necessarily intermediates, like, you know, the road courses and whatnot, but we have Michigan, we have Pocono, two races that are generally good for cars that are good on intermediate tracks. And I think if he can have some good finishes there, 32 points, I don't think that's very much. So we will just have to wait and see. And guys, when we go to Atlanta Motor Speedway in a couple weeks, oh, I'm sorry, I'm dead naming, Echo Park Speedway, as it is now called.
These sponsorship deals, sometimes they go 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever. But at the end of the day, we're still calling it Atlanta Motor Speedway. I mean, hell, there's people that still call Sonoma Sears Point, you know, all these years later. Or, you know, was anybody calling Phoenix Raceway ISM Raceway? No, everybody was still calling Phoenix. Like, I don't blame Speedway Motorsports Group for chasing that bag and getting that money either. I mean, you got to get the money where it's at. But, like, I don't think this really changes a ton. Like, it's fine with me. I don't hate it, Spencer.
You know, if I've learned one thing throughout all the years of being a fan and working throughout the NASCAR garage, is when it goes over to the grandstand side of things, fans are always going to find a way to complain about something because even when everything is going perfect, that is how it's supposed to go. The first thing that they can find wrong, man, that is when you're going to hear about it. And even worse now that we have social media to blast all of our thoughts without any recollection of ever needing a fact check or ever needing to check yourself to see if the information's even accurate. When it comes to this Echo Park Speedway, though, you know, I like it. I always love seeing more money coming into the sport. I'm not going to call it Echo Park. I'm still going to call it Atlanta Motor Speedway. I'm still going to, every once in a while call it the Busch Series. That's what it is. It's just all the old souls here in NASCAR. It's very hard to get anybody to accept change in the racing world. So, you know what? If it makes the executives over at Echo Park happy for the next 6 years, then that's just fine with me. I know that there's a little bit more tie-in with some B2B over there with Speedway and the families involved over there. I know that they have some tie-in with Echo Park as well. So there's a little more than meets the eye over there, but nonetheless, you know what? If it brings in a little bit more dollars over to Atlanta Motor Speedway, I think that the new product over there has at least showed that fans are going to show up and they're going to enjoy the racing. So whatever it says behind their heads up there next to the lights, I don't think that's going to be a huge deal.
Jonathan, big deal or little deal? Do you have a problem with this?
I don't have a problem with it. Honestly, I think it's great, like Spencer mentioned, that there is a branding deal like this, especially with Atlanta. They want to do a lot of great things with that track. It's great to see for the sport. I think it's going to be really good. One other thing that will be great for one particular guy in the sport is Corey LaJoy. He will be running 9 of the final 13 truck races with Spire. He will have at least 12 fans in the grandstands. He posted on social media a little photo kind of poking fun at a comment he made in the off season and all that. I think there were 11 fans, something like that. You'll have to go check it out yourself. But he'll be racing at Michigan this weekend, Richmond, Darlington, Bristol, New Hampshire, Charlotte Roval, Talladega, Martinsville, and Phoenix.
Very good. So Corey getting that ride. You know, Spencer, I would put it this way. I know that Corey expressed his frustration about that. Hey, he didn't want to race on Fridays and Saturdays. He wanted to race on Sundays. But another thing was Corey was big on putting himself in good equipment. And he had that opportunity with Hendrick for that one-off, and that didn't necessarily go that great. And he was running with all those smaller teams, and ended up losing his ride at Spire and goes to Rick Ware and was out of a ride there and all that. And you know, I'll say this, like for Corey, I know that Spire isn't a team he would probably want to run with in Cup right now, based on how he said things. But this is a good opportunity for him with people he knows he's familiar with in the truck series. Like I'm looking at this, like I think we've asked the questions in the past. Okay, Corey usually runs towards the back in Cup. What would he actually do in Xfinity or truck? I think this is a good opportunity to prove himself in good equipment with people he knows here.
I don't know that it is, to be honest with you. I mean, we just saw potentially the greatest Truck Series driver of all time really struggle the last few times that he's been behind the wheel of the 07 truck. And I don't know why. I mean, on the other end of things, you see Raja Caruth go to victory lane. So what's going on with this 07 truck that isn't lining up? Is that their R&D truck? Are they purposely just trying anything and everything that they can to try to get all the other full-time Spire trucks in victory lane? I don't know. But if you can't get Kyle Busch to victory lane, I don't see that it's going to go all that great for Corey LaJoy. And that's coming from somebody who I enjoy Corey LaJoy. I think that he's a really, really smart driver. I think that his words that he chose earlier this year when he's basically shitting on the truck and Xfinity series wasn't the smartest move by any means, especially when you don't necessarily have the resume in your career to back up all those words. But this is going to be a very interesting moment. We also saw BJ McLeod, who is very, very well understood through the garage as a good driver who would do well in the right equipment. He struggled in that truck too. So I don't know what's going on with that 07 truck, but something's got to change. And maybe Corey LaJoy is going to be that change that they need, and a fresh atmosphere needed in that garage, because something's going awry for at least that specific leg of Spire right now.
Yeah. Uh, Jonathan, what else we got going on here?
Well, I'll just kind of add real quick to what Spencer said. Raja even referred to it during his winter interview that, hey, we've been off. This is a huge win for us. And even a guy like Andres Perez, who, Spencer, like, he's pretty talented. Like, he's been basically invisible in his rookie season in trucks, even though he had a couple good efforts last year. So, be interesting to see. Corey has been the type of guy who has gotten a lot out of equipment. You remember back in 2023 when Spire was kind of on the up and up. At this point in the season, back in 2023, he was 19th in points, about where Carson Hocevar is now. So be interesting to see and if he can get a little bit more out of his equipment. And I tell you, one guy who really is getting a lot out of his equipment this year, AJ Allmendinger. And it sounds like multiple sources are saying that that will continue, that AJ will be back in Cup right around the cut line. One of the 17 guys I mentioned. What do you guys think about AJ returning? What do you think, Spencer?
Well, when you talk about AJ Allmendinger, you talk about a driver who has seen every hill and every valley when it comes to the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series. And this is a driver who all but was retired just a few years ago, came back for none other than because Chris Rice and Matt Collig asked him, please, will you come help us straighten our program out? And he has such great loyalty and respect for them that he did. And lo and behold, he started enjoying it again. I think that when you get into victory lane after a few years of just being down on yourself, unsure, that changes everything in a driver. And I don't care if you're talking about your local street stock driver or if you're talking about Jimmy Johnson in his prime. That changes a driver's perspective. And I think that Allmendinger's in a great place. We saw him run top five in the Coke 600. That was huge. We saw him hopefully this last weekend didn't completely crush him, because I don't think everything that happened was all necessarily his fault. We saw him lose practice time, having to go through tech multiple times. But obviously, NASCAR may have been onto something that they found to see that speed increase so much in the last few weeks. So I think that when you're looking at Allmendinger, he's having fun right now. And Chris said it himself. All you got to do is take him to golf every week, and he's a happy camper.
Well, and Jonathan, I'd be curious what you think about this. Like, I look at his run at college, and I don't necessarily even think he's been treated all that great the entire time there. He wanted to stay in Cup. They forced him to move the Xfinity Series when he had won a race in Cup that year, and he made it known he wasn't too happy about it, but he was going to do what was in the best interest of the team. Then they put him back in Cup, and we've seen a variety of drivers come through college racing, and you know, it has been a lot of peaks and valleys. Their Xfinity program has been very good over the years. A little down right now, considerably speaking, but they've been trophy hunting, as Chris Rice will tell you in the Xfinity Series. Cup Series, I think there was a lot of hope, a lot of optimism, but never really quite worked out. They've had some good runs here and there, but have never really found that consistency. And I think losing Justin Haley ended up being a big loss for them a couple years ago too. When I look at the drivers that are connected to Kaulig right now, if they are serious about their Cup program and competing for the playoff, I don't think there's a better driver for them than AJ Allmendinger at this moment. I think this is the right call.
Absolutely, because AJ not only is that ace in the hole in the road courses, but he is also the guy who we've seen can get it down on the ovals and point his way into the playoffs, even if, he does, it's NASCAR, you might not win them all, he's been a great driver for that. And I think everything that happened back, in 2023, back then when it seemed like Kaulig was in flux, when Chandler left, when Justin Haley left, when AJ got demoted, I think they've mended fences since that point, because you could really see that at that point, there was just kind of a transition of like, oh my gosh, like we might have, and they didn't admit to this publicly, but it might have been a matter of like, oh my gosh, we expanded very quickly. We poured out a lot of money. And now we need to like think serious about the long term and for the future. And I think they've done a good job with it because you look at their cup lineup right now with AJ. You look even at Ty Dillon, who, didn't really come into the season with not a lot of people were very excited about him, but he's done a solid job in that car and they've elevated their performance. They've got Christian Eckes who's on the up and up. They've got, guys like Josh Williams and Daniel Dye who are solid race car drivers and also have, steady sponsors as well. So it's seems like they're rebuilding themselves and they're doing a pretty good job at it. And man, if they can make the playoffs this year, that would be a huge shot in the arm.
Spencer, that other car that Jonathan mentioned, Ty Dillon, he's done better than what people expected, but I think we all know why he is in that car. Um, Colleague, of course, a RCR affiliate team. They're on RCR's campus. Richard Childress trying to find a spot for his son and all. It kind of reminds me of the power that Penske has over Wood Brothers, where Penske tells Wood Brothers what to do, and they take orders and they listen. Like, could they do better than Ty Dillon? Absolutely, they could. No disrespect to Ty Dillon, but at the end of the day, like it might at this point with where they're at as a team, it might not even ultimately be their decision about Ty Dillon whether they can replace him or not.
And the interesting part is part of that transition with bringing Ty in this year was that RCR was essentially going to house all of the Cup cars under one roof as far as data and setup stuff goes, whereas then all of the colleague were basically taking care of the Xfinity cars. And I think we've seen that shift very visibly on both sides of that. With AJ Allmendinger, he's had some great runs lately, but you look over the RCR side of things, and they've somewhat struggled in the Xfinity series here as of late. That's something that we didn't really see last year. So I think that overall, I would call it a net gain, at least for Colleague. RCR, he gets Ty in a car again full time. So I don't think that anybody's necessarily upset right now. But I don't know what the future is going to hold because how long is that agreement going to be sufficient on both sides to make all parties happy? This is a very quick changing sport and very dependent on sponsorship as well. I think that you guys just touched on the Xfinity side of it, at least for Colleague, that you know what? They're solid right now with at least two of those drivers bringing in enough dollar signs, and they're happy with the program over there on the 16. So, what do the next couple of years look like? I think that it might change here. I don't think it's going to come right away in 2026, but I feel like after the 2026 year, we're going to see a big silly season come up.
Yeah, well, whatever happens, we will tell you about it right here, and we'll also tell you about the in-season tournament, which will feature all those drivers that we talked about: AJ Allmendinger, Ty Dillon, all the RCR guys. 32 drivers are in the in-season tournament. The winner gets $1 million. Last week, set the drivers, set the field. You can see here for the in-season tournament. Only 4 drivers missed: Shane Van Gisbergen, Cole Custer, Riley Herbst, and Cody Ware. So the final 3 races that Prime Video will air will determine the seeding, and then the 5 races that TNT will broadcast will determine who wins the $1 million. Yeah, top 32 drivers based on seeding races will be eligible for the tournament. Bracket seeding is based on the best finish in each seeding race, and tiebreakers are determined by the next best finish, followed by season points position.
Here's where I'm at with this, guys. I think the in-season tournament is a good idea, but I think, and I understand part of it has to do with because this is in TNT's package. They need to give TNT something, some juice of sorts. But I think it's too late in the year. I think that we're all focused on the playoff when, and we're already talking about the playoff picture at this point. We're what, 8 races out now from the playoff?
12 races.
12 races. Thank you. And we're already talking about the playoff situation. Well, we get to the TNT package. We're going to be even much closer to the playoff. And I don't even think the drivers are going to be necessarily caring about the in-season tournament. They're going to be focused on getting to the playoff and their playoff positioning. If they would have done this, Spencer, and believe me, I understand a lot of it has to do with the network stuff, with the TV situation. If they would have done this in March, like a couple weeks after Daytona or something, I think that would have been perfect. But I just don't like the timing of where this is at.
I'm with you on that, Tyler. I think that timing definitely not ideal, but in this case, it's kind of what we're given, and I feel like this was a really big selling point when it came to TNT and getting them on board for those 5 races. Because other than that, I'm not really sure what's the other meat and potatoes that TNT has right there in that 5 race series. It's not a whole lot. I know that they got a little bit, but I feel like from a fan perspective, this is going to be very determined on how TNT presents this. If they make a big deal out of this and they actually follow these individual battles throughout this 5 race mini series, I feel like it can be a very refreshing thing here, albeit a little bit late. It could be a very refreshing thing to see on the broadcast side of things. I feel like being able to go head to head, and I know everybody's going to be filling out brackets, a lot like what we've been doing with the unofficial Dirty Mo Media ones the last couple of years. It was fun for me to follow along. I really was not good at it. In fact, my girlfriend Sydney was kicking my butt every single week, but it was something that was different, and I appreciate them trying. It's just, like you said, a little bit late in the going here for this when we're already talking about that playoff bubble. And also, I'm not really sure if I've seen enough buzz around both the garage and also just on social media and everything else yet, but that could change here in the next 3 weeks. I'm not sure.
Jonathan, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Like it's really about the playoffs, and I think that's enough of a story as it is that, we almost don't need the in-season tournament. Obviously, it's
Is
something
it too
that,
gimmicky?
yeah, I think it's pure in the sense of like it rewards the best drivers in the 5 races. It really gives you something to root for and something fun. But it kind of plays second fiddle almost of the season. Me, and I only say this because shout out John Newby, writer at Savage Ventures, a friend of the channel, recently had a birthday. He wrote an article talking about how some of the drivers just were kind of ho hum about it. Like, yeah, cool, there's an in-season tournament coming up, but how does that affect me in the season? I'm not really thinking about it too much. I haven't really thought about it. $1 million as well. I mean, it is a lot of money. It would change our lives for sure. If we got $1 million, but like to these teams, we already saw this with the All-Star race where it's like, well, okay, $1 million. Like Joe Gibbs, I think, said in Victory Lane, I spent 5 million to win this $1 million. So like, what does it really mean? So I don't know. And it's the first year. NASCAR will experiment with this. The partners will experiment with this, and I think it'll come back better next year. If it does come back, we'll just have to see.
Well,
Yeah.
let me say this one more thing, and then we'll move on. And feel free for either one of you to jump in on this thought too. Like this being a new thing, we're in the middle of the playoff hunt. You win the in-season tournament. Could be a guy that finishes fifth in the final race. Is that something that you're padding on your resume? Like, oh, this guy was the 2025 in-season tournament winner. Like, no, we're not going to remember who won the in-season tournament in 2025 3 years from now, unless we're trying to play some diehard NASCAR trivia or something here. Like, you know, when you look at these drivers' resumes, you're looking for, the crown jewel wins, the championships, the Daytona 500s, and all that. Like, it's got to build some prestige to mean something, and maybe it will someday. But like, I just don't see it mattering that much in the grand scheme of things.
You know who it may have mattered the most for is somebody that missed it. One of the only 4 drivers to miss it, and that's SVG. Because I'm looking at these 5 races that TNT has. We go Atlanta straight to Chicago, then Sonoma, and then Dover and Indy. I mean, what a story that could have been. But shout out to Brad Keselowski for that last minute push there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What do the odds look like, Jonathan?
Well, while SVG may not be one of the favorites, Carson Hocevar is definitely one of the favorites for this weekend. Odds makers are really taking notice, guys. I've obviously we have the odds posted on the racingexperts.com every single week. Dom or I usually post it this week. I posted it. Carson Hocevar, I mean, you'd have to scroll down a little bit, kind of find him 100 to 1, like I think 125 to 1, like toward the start of his rookie season. 60 to 1, it's coming down 30 to 1. This weekend, he is an 18 to 1 favorite. I mean, just best odds of his career. It really shows like how he's coming along, but he's not the odds on favorite. That is Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson sharing that. That's plus 550. So if you're betting, say you throw down $10, Denny Hamlin wins, you will win 55 bucks plus you'll get your $10 back. And then Ryan Blaney and William Byron are plus 700. Tyler Reddick plus 800. Christopher Bell plus 1,000. Chase Elliott and Joey Logano plus 1,600. And then, like I mentioned, Carson Osavar plus 1,800. And then Ross Chastain and Chase Briscoe plus 2,000. So, guys, hypothetically, if you had $5 coming into Michigan this weekend, or this is not betting advice, this is just talk. We're having fun here, guys. Who would you throw some money down on? Who you think?
Spencer, go ahead. Give me your pick.
I think that, just based on what we've seen the last few years, I would still want to go with a dark horse Mustang whenever I go to Michigan. So give me Joey Logano this weekend.
I got one for you. And he's been kind of quiet this year. But I think he's a guy, a Mustang, that's done well at this track that could win before. If I'm looking to place a wager, he's not my pick to win this weekend, but just, an outside bet. What about Chris Buescher potentially?
Ooh, he is plus 2,500, which would be 25 to 1 odds.
Okay. My actual pick to win the race though, this weekend. Oof. I'll say Ryan Blaney goes back to back.
Ooh, Spencer?
Ooh, I like that too. When it comes to a race like Michigan, I know I just said you want to go dark horse if you're a betting man, but I think with the last couple weeks in the back of my mind too, it would be very hard to get in front of that number 11 right now. So I think overall pick to win, I got to go with the favorite rolling into this weekend, Denny Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin. All right.
All right,
Well,
John, give me your bet and then who you actually have winning.
for a bet, I'm gonna go with a guy that I didn't even mention. Austin Cindric is plus 6,000, which of course would be 60 to 1. I would I would look at him, given the way Penske has been on these speedways. Fords, like you mentioned, got to go with the dark horse. I like Cindric for a bet, but for a win, I like William Byron. William Byron has been close. He's been running up front. He's had good speed. They're running a similar tire as what they've run at the 600 and Darlington and other races where he's done very well. I think William Byron, he's due to break through.
There we go. Time for our mailbag segment. You can submit questions to us each and every week at Star Podcast on X, Facebook, also by email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. And our first question in the inbox this week comes from Glenn. Glenn wants to know, guys, who is the top driver with the best future, in your opinion, right now in either the Xfinity or Truck Series? Spencer, we'll start with you. If you had to pick one, who would it be?
I think that all eyes right now are on Corey Heim. I think that he's the top driver in the Truck Series by far, week in, week out. He's driving very smart. He is just biding his time. He's putting a lot of checks in. And I feel like he's the only driver right now when I look at least the Truck Series. I feel like Xfinity may be a little bit bigger pool, but Truck Series alone, he's the only driver that is capable of hopping in a Cup car right now and going to victory lanes. So give me Corey Heim as that driver.
Yeah, Heim time. I think Corey's got the brightest future. What's crazy to me, Jonathan, along those lines, and then we'll get your answer here in a second too. I was shocked that 2311 got his rights. He's the best prospect out there and in the Toyota family, and the fact that he's not within the camp of the top Toyota team at Joe Gibbs Racing, and that he's within the 2311 family, I think that's a huge get for 2311. Riley Herbst, I don't think has much of a long-term future. I know he's got funding. Bubba Wallace, I think he kind of just is what he is, but Corey Heim, like, it shouldn't take him very long. Like, I don't even know what good it would do him to go to Xfinity at this point. He might be ready for Cup next year.
Oh,
Can I share a
absolutely.
stat really quick with you guys on Corey
Yes.
Heim that I just found?
Go for it.
Laps led in the Truck Series for 2025, 812 laps already.
Wow.
The next driver below him is the number 38 Chandler Smith at a 188.
And I
That
think,
stat is staggering to me, and that I mean you can't look away from that. It's incredible to see what Corey Heim is doing. I know he's in a Tricon truck. I know he's in great equipment, but man, he's doing such a good job, and I feel like he would do even better if he was around other drivers that ran with the respect that he does week in and week out. So I can't look away from that stat. That just really surprised me.
yeah, and I think Fox alluded to that and said something like the rest of the field has led something like 750 laps compared to the 800 some
Mhm.
laps. It's ridiculous, like how good he's been in trucks. And yeah, 2311 getting his rights is huge. And I think that's huge for Heim's development because they're able to put a car out there at the right tracks to be able to home in on his development. We've seen him at Nashville, a very technical intermediate. We've seen him at Kansas. We're going to see him at other tracks that are going to kind of diversify his skills. He had a welcome to the NASCAR Cup Series moment with Brad Keselowski at Nashville. Thought he was clear. He wasn't clear. He crashed. Rookie thing. But you know what? It is great that he's going through that right now in these part-time starts and learning and getting those things out of the way than having to kind of navigate these landmines when he's trying to run for a championship. I mean, look at Ty Gibbs. He's through over 100 cup starts. He's had some great runs, hasn't been able to close out, having not a great season, trying to navigate a new crew chief. Everything that Corey's doing right now, I think will get him going quicker when he gets the cup, quicker than a lot of other guys who, we've seen Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, other guys who have needed 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 races to find Kyle Larson to win a race because they didn't get the testing, they didn't get the practice that they needed. This might be a little dangerous for the field that Corey Heim is in such a good position that he's in.
Jonathan, let me ask you this. I mentioned that him being in the 2311 camp. Um, what do you think his timeline is to get the cup? And then, two, who do you think he's more likely to replace, Bubba or Riley?
A scenario I see working out just with the current situation with Legacy Motor Club and Rick Ware Racing, where Legacy Motor Club tried pursuing a charter from Rick Ware Racing, didn't go over well. There's a lawsuit pending. If that lawsuit works out well for Legacy Motor Club and they get that charter, could potentially see a situation where maybe, and obviously this is all just talk, nothing official. Want to just completely say that, where maybe Riley goes to that third car, gets that car going, provides the funding that is needed, provides also, I mean, Riley is a solid driver. Let's not sell him short here. And Heim is able to elevate himself to the Cup Series because also by that point, we're talking 2027. 2311 will have built up a pretty good amount of sponsorship to bring Heim to the Cup Series. We saw that with the Robin Hood deal. We've seen it with, Toyota really backing him. I think everything lines up really well for maybe 2027 for him to come up.
2027. It still feels like a long time, but it's not that long, just 2 years away. Spencer, the point I brought up, were you surprised that 2311 got to him before Joe Gibbs Racing did? Joe Gibbs has been the ones with all the development drivers within the Toyota family. And this is the best prospect we've seen in years.
I was, but I also heard in an interview from Corey Heim saying that he's had potential to go up to a very high ranking Xfinity team, and he decided to forego that to stick with 2311, who he had his original talks with. So perhaps this was a situation where that was on the table for him to at least go to the Xfinity ride. But then how long do you have to wait for Denny Hamlin to eventually get through his career? For Corey, I feel like he's talking to some great people though, and he's trying to do it the right way. and he's a smart young man, and I feel like he's surrounding himself in a way that's going to help him for many years to come.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Our next question in the inbox this week comes from Patrick, and Patrick wants to know, with the Mexico City race coming up very soon, what is another international track or market that you would like to see the NASCAR Cup Series go to? Spencer, we'll start with you.
I feel like one of the first things that I think of is somehow getting back to Montreal. I think that's probably the most realistic and easiest things for NASCAR to go do. But when it comes to something that would be kind of out of the box and out of the ordinary, I'd love for them to go over to somewhere like Spa or just some of the one of the incredible Formula One tracks that would just be an incredible show. So I feel like Montreal is probably the most realistic answer, but any of the famous Formula One tracks would be a really cool thing for NASCAR and all the fans.
Montreal, I think, Jonathan, is the most likely. Um, and with that said, like I, I I guess by default that would probably be the one I choose because it's probably the easiest to do, and it is a great track and all. But like kind of what was talked about with what Spencer brought up, like it's just all the logistics that get involved. I know that they raced in Japan many years ago, but then you're talking about, okay, we get cars on planes or by boats and all this. Like I know Ben Kennedy's got this international expansion idea, but there's really only so many places you can go that these teams can afford to pull off.
And I think that's why when you're talking about racing internationally or racing abroad overseas, it's more so with the Clash. Obviously, the Clash is going to return to Bowman Gray Stadium, but before that wasn't a definite, they were talking about racing in Brazil. And I like that idea a lot because I remember back in my sim racing days, like outside of the US, like Brazil was probably the most represented country because you had leagues where you would go into their team speak and like me being a white boy who speaks English and a little bit of Spanish, I couldn't understand a single word, because like they were all in there chatting, having a good time, Brazilians, like racing in their own league, having fun. Like there are a lot of race fans down there that I think if NASCAR can get down there for, the Clash, like it would be a huge success and it would be really big. And I think it's definitely something to explore with the Clash. But like you mentioned, like the logistics and everything is tough. And I think that's why it's good for the Clash because it's like if something goes wrong in the whole process of getting the cars over there or something happening, at least you're not potentially costing a driver or a team a championship.
I got a unique idea, guys. I think one of the problems with the Chicago street race is that it's been in a city that hasn't embraced it. Half the population isn't too thrilled about the race being there. I think it's been a good event, but it could be much better than what it is. If if you want a street race to be embraced, let's go international with the street race. Like, let's go to Toronto or something, and where this is the biggest deal, this sporting event that they got NASCAR on the streets in a big city, and then it makes it unique. Gives you a reason to get out of the country too. That would be something I would potentially look at. I don't know if you can pull it off, but I think that would make a street race more intriguing and more exciting for the host city involved.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with that. I feel like if we were able to just make the excitement come back, I feel like now we've proven with Chicago that we can take that idea with a street race and bring racing to whatever region wants NASCAR. It's opened up an entire new chapter here as we move forward, and I'm excited to see what Ben Kennedy and the rest of the NASCAR execs do with that information because I do think that the possibilities are somewhat endless within reason. I feel like this is going to have to eventually become a thing of having to go overseas, perhaps in the what would never be called the off season again because it would not never be an off season. I feel like we just continue to keep adding races every year. But I do feel like that is an opportunity for us to eventually go to perhaps Europe. Like you said, Brazil would be amazing. Easiest ones, though, are definitely our neighbors to start with.
Yeah, I think so. Guys, we're just about out of time. Before we go, Spencer, what's the next few weeks look like for you, man? And where can people connect and follow you?
Well, I've been busy, albeit not behind the wheel yet, but I am building a couple new race cars and excited to announce more about that soon. You can always go to www.spencerhillracing.com to keep up with all my news and notes. And of course, connect with my sponsors. One of the new sponsors that I just partnered up with is a local optometrist company. It's called Casey Optical 2. They're based out of right here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They also have an office up in Denver and over in Austin as well. And this is a cool partnership because I'm going to be rolling out an eyewear line coming out July 1st. So you can actually wear some Spencer Hill sunglasses. I'll have to get you guys hooked up on that side of things. But looking forward to that partnership and announcing a somewhat limited schedule here in the coming months. But other than that, I got a race coming up here in a couple weeks where I'm going to be announcing again for the 360 Wing Desert Series. So I'm excited for that opportunity. It's been great to get on the other side of the glass and see all my friends again and be able to shed some light on some unique stories throughout the entire pit area in front of some pay-per-view. And man, just enjoying life, staying busy, and looking forward to hopefully seeing you guys in person here pretty soon.
Yeah, certainly. That'd be great if that happens. Jonathan, been great to have you with us the last couple of weeks. The the hand is good to go. You're back to fully working. What's going on with you?
Yeah, we're back, doing stuff like this, and we'll be posting more on my X, Jonathan Fjeld, Jonathan underscore Fjeld. You can see the spelling there. Doing stuff, doing articles. Yeah, it's great to be back. I think the time off and everything, just healing, is honestly life changing. Really good. Just took advantage of the time. I mean, Spencer, you can probably relate to that. When you're out with an injury, it really makes you look at life and everything, and just kind of remember what's really important and what your mission is and what your goal is. So it's great to be back, and you can find my stuff on theraceexperts.com.
There you have it. Great stuff, guys. It's been a lot of fun. I am, believe it or not, I'm going to be at Texas Motor Speedway this weekend for David Starr's racing school. I'm not getting behind the wheel,
Come
but
on.
What?
well, it's not my choice. I would if I could.
Oh
Uh,
man.
but my father is. This is a gift from my dad. So I can't get behind the wheel because I gotta film dad's reaction, and get the photos and all. I gotta be his PR guy.
And
So
then he gets to film you. That's the way the deal works. Come on, Tyler.
I've
Jeez.
done I've done it before. I've done it before. If if we can potentially make it work, like I'm not gonna push it because it is a gift from David. So I'm not trying to overstep my bounds. But if they let me, believe me, I'd be glad to do it. I've done this before. So doing that for my dad this weekend, and he's excited to get behind the wheel of a NASCAR race car at Texas Motor Speedway and all that. We're hoping the weather cooperates though. I don't think the Air Titan's probably good enough to keep the average citizens off the track. So we'll just hope that that all goes away. Probably not going to happen if we if the rain that's in the forecast right now stays. So fingers crossed. But that's all I'll be doing this weekend, and should be a lot of fun with that. And you can check out David's Racing School at teamtexas.com. We'll put the checkered flag out on this edition of Let's Go Racing. For Spencer Hill and Jonathan Feld, I'm Tyler Jones. Make sure to subscribe to the show. New episodes out each and every week. Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review or don't leave us one at all. Hit us up on social media on X and Facebook at Star Podcast. Also by email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Dominic will be back with us next week, and we will see you then. So long.